Right, I've got to keep the noise down ever so slightly because Mrs. Gossip is asleep in the room next door. So if you're watching this, maybe turn the volume up slightly. Just doing a quick post-fight video on Frank Buglioni versus Fedor Chudinov. The fight's just finished and I'm recording straight away, so I haven't seen any post-fight interviews, etc. So I'll just crack straight into it. First and foremost, credit to Frank Buglioni. He did a lot better than I anticipated he would do. I wouldn't have bet on him lasting the 12 rounds. I thought his defence was too poor and I thought he'd get stopped earlier on in this fight. He put on a spirited performance. He showed great heart to make the bell. He showed a real fighting spirit, but essentially he was outclassed. And if I'm honest, I wanted the ref to jump in and stop it towards the end of the fight, particularly in the 12th round where he took a savage beating. And I'm not just saying I wanted it to get stopped because I'd predicted he was going to get knocked out. I wanted it to get stopped because it was a continuous beatdown, and you know, Buglioni's a nice guy, he seems like a nice enough chap, and you hope that no lasting damage is done in a beatdown like that. In terms of the fight, Dmitry Chudinov really impressed me. He's a really tidy fighter. I don't think he's exceptional. I don't think he does anything extraordinary, and I think fundamentally he's probably too small to be an elite level super middleweight. If you look at the size difference between the two tonight, in my eyes they looked like there was more than one weight class between them. It looked to me like Buglioni was a light heavyweight and Chudinov was a middleweight. And I think that lack of size could be a problem as he steps up in class and fights the top of the super middleweight division. What he did do though, he showed a variety of very good attributes. First and foremost, his accuracy was spot on. He was very efficient with his work. You know, this is Chudinov I'm talking about. The jab was really accurate. He was doubling up the jab. He was managing to get inside of range despite being a smaller man. He could kind of just glide in to Frank Buglioni's range and land what he wanted. We've already talked about his efficiency. I thought he was landing some nice short punches, almost like inside punches. He repeatedly landed a short hook, catching Buglioni, and you know, there wasn't a lot of wasted energy. There wasn't a lot of wasted work. He seemed like a very solid fighter to me. I did pretty much give him every round of the fight. I think there was an argument that Buglioni was competitive in 2 rounds. I could see them being 10-10 rounds. I wouldn't have anything, you know, hugely against it if you gave Buglioni a round or 2. I personally favoured Chudinov in every round and didn't score Buglioni a single round. As for Frank Buglioni, you know, he was very hearty, spirited performance, but it was the technical frailties tonight that really cost him. His complete lack of defence was evident from the start of the fight. He was completely unable to block a jab. On the inside, Chudinov seemed to be able to land a short hook at will. His hands were low. There was no head movement at all from Buglioni throughout the course of the fight, something that would undeniably prove costly for him in the long term. I mean, literally no head movement. The other thing in terms of his offense, you know, Buglioni's jab I thought was very poor. He didn't really create enough gaps with his own jab. He didn't ever double up his jab. He didn't ever sort of go to the body, go to the head. He didn't vary the pace. It was very one-pace jab for me. You know, his hands were too low. There was no head movement. His jab was too poor, and essentially he was outclassed and outgunned tonight. Let me say the incident in the 7th round. If you haven't seen the fight, Buglioni catches Chudinov. Chudinov takes the punch very well. The bell then rings, and Buglioni, in my eyes, pauses slightly, throws a big right hand and drops Chudinov. For me, that punch reminded me of when Floyd Mayweather knocked out Victor Ortiz. It was effectively a sucker punch. I think it was clearly after the bell. Having watched it back, I think Buglioni quite possibly knew it was after the bell. I think he was getting desperate in a fight. He knew he was losing, saw an opening and thought he'd risk it. But there was a slight pause, which to me made it clear that he'd seen the end of the bell. Fedor Chudinov, who'd previously taken a similar punch from Buglioni easily, was dropped. You know, his hands were down low. He wasn't expecting a punch. Obviously, the round had ended, he'd heard the bell, he hadn't kept his defences up, and it was effectively a sucker punch. If I was the referee, this is not me being anti-Buglioni, but you knock down an opponent like that after the bell's rung clearly, I think it's a disqualification. I'd have disqualified Buglioni. And to be honest, when we went to the round after that, whether it's the 7th or 8th, I can't remember, Buglioni came out hard and looked like he could potentially hurt Chudinov, who was still obviously getting over the effects of the previous punch. Had Buglioni been able to secure a stoppage at that point, I would have said it was an incredible injustice. So for me, because of the fact that it had the potential to sway the whole course of the fight, the referee taking away 2 points simply wasn't enough, and I'd have stopped the fight there. I'd have DQ'd Buglioni. For me, it was cynical. And it was unfair to Chudinov, who, by the way, showed great resilience to get up from a punch like that. That punch would have knocked out many, many guys. Not because Buglioni's necessarily the biggest puncher in the world, but because Chudinov wasn't expecting it, caught him by complete surprise, and it was, basically straight on his chin with no defences. He didn't even move to take the punch. So fair play for Chudinov. He showed great durability and heart to stay in the fight and to come back and actually win that next round. I must say, I think the corner work from Pascal Collins tonight was poor beyond belief. I've criticised his corner work before, namely when Spike O'Sullivan fought Billy Joe Saunders, or in previous Buglioni fights. For me, Pascal Collins, he does a lot of, Frank, you're winning, you're doing brilliant, you're winning, you need to knock him out, Frank, you need to knock him out. He talks a lot of emotive language, he comes out with a lot of big statements, he doesn't give clear and concise instruction on his fighter, he doesn't point out his defensive frailties, he doesn't point out the fact that the jab isn't working. It's all these sort of motivational, emotive comments. You're winning, you're doing well, Frank. It's none of the technical advice that a fighter needs, and no advice on adjustments needed for a fighter who's losing a fight. I thought that was telling. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think it was very poor from Pascal Collins. The other thing I'd say is Buglioni's weaknesses weren't exactly secrets. It was very obvious to everyone watching this that Buglioni's defence was very weak. His head movement wasn't there. He was too open, etc. Why did they not address this in training camp? Why is it that they came and made the same mistakes over and over again? For me, this is a fighter, this is a team who hasn't learned from the mistakes that their man had made previously, like when he fought Kamitsky. The adjustments just haven't been there for me. And I must say, I think this is somewhat due to a bit of overconfidence on behalf of the team Collins. After the fight with Andrew Robinson, Collins said it was a defensive masterclass. For me, it was a horrific defensive performance. So, that was really evident. So all in all, a spirited performance from Buglioni. Arguably, his stock rises from this loss. I hope that there's no lasting damage done. He took a lot of punches. It was a very, very hard 12 rounds for him. And whilst he had his moments, he was thoroughly outclassed at this level. Potentially a move to light heavyweight beckons. Potentially a drop down in class beckons. Who knows? We shall see. But fair play to Frank Buglioni. I don't like his corner and I don't like his trainer. I don't think it's working for him. I think he needs to make technical adjustments. I think he needs to go back to basics and go back to the drawing board, if you like, and see what can be readjusted in his game. Chudinov, I'll watch him again. I don't think he carries enough power, and I don't think he's big enough to beat the Andre Wards and James the Gales of this world, but he does a lot right. Very, very well schooled fighter, very efficient, nothing wasted, a lot of accuracy. And I thought he performed with extreme credit tonight, given the circumstances and given that illegal knockdown he suffered. Very resilient, very strong of him to come back from that. Let me know your thoughts on this fight. Many thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much.